Coming up on this second hour of American Sunrise, Portland on edge. A federal judge has blocked President Trump from sending the National Guard to that city following weeks of unrest there. The U.S. District Judge says the president violated federal law and the 10th Amendment. We'll have the very latest facts in just a moment. Plus, President Trump calls out the Democrat candidate for Attorney General in Virginia, demanding he withdraw from the race after shocking texts emerged showing that he made violent threats against a top Republican and his family. We'll break the story down for you and if he's going to be held accountable. A new Rasmussen poll reveals a growing concern across the United States as most Americans say they fear political violence is on the rise. Well, this morning, we'll break down the numbers for you and what this radicalization means for our country. Those stories and so much more right now on this second hour of American Sunrise.
Good morning, America.
Welcome to American Sunrise.
Whether it's culture,
We have breaking news to share with you.
politics,
President Trump is joining us live now from Florida.
we've got you covered.
This is what it looks like to be a patriot.
We have to protect the American family.
The American dream is still alive.
I'm David Brody.
I'm Terrence.
And I'm Dr. Gina.
Welcome back, everybody, to the second hour of American Sunrise. I'm David Brody. I'm in the deep state. Let's bring in Dr. G. She's in West Palm. I was going to call it West Palm State. Sorry, West Palm Beach. T. Bates in our Denver newsroom, which is in the state of Colorado. Good morning to both of you. You know, I want to say something about October 7th. I want to be clear about what's going on with Israel. Like, it is okay, obviously, to question Netanyahu and the Israeli government. I mean, that's low-hanging fruit. We know that. Of course you should be doing that. We should all be doing that. We're free thinkers. So that's not what we're talking about here. This idea that anti-Semitism has spread so far, so wide since October 7th. It was a problem before that. It's even more of a problem now. There's a difference between criticizing Netanyahu and the Israeli government and saying it's the Jews' fault for everything. You know, that, and then I can get into a lot of the tropes and everything. You know, it's like, you know, we always talk about how, Gina, it's Trump's fault. You know, Trump's responsible for global warming. Trump's responsible for this. It kind of is a way the same thing with the Jews. It's always the Jews' fault with the Candace Owens. I'll call her out. I don't give a crap. You know, people like Candace Owens and many others. My concern is that on the anarchist right, people like Jackson Hinkle, I'll call him out too, and others, they've got millions of followers. And I'm really concerned about it, Gina. I really am.
I think it's okay to question everything. I think it's okay to listen to the people you just mentioned and make your own decision, but be rational.
Absolutely.
I also think it's okay to think that we should put America first and not fund everybody that comes down the pike every time they rear up and put their hand out, right? So there are a lot of, you know, I think we are in such an interesting time in our history. I'm not sure, at least in my lifetime, that we've ever been exactly in this place in our history, because while all of this questioning of Israel, et cetera, is happening, there is a revival in the United States, and my son went on a British national news channel last night talking about the revival happening in the UK. So it's a time of great disparity, isn't it? It's a time of good and bad, of good and evil, of love and hate in so many interesting ways. The psychological component for me is always something to observe and to kind of sit back and watch, because that's the part of it, when you break it all the way down, that becomes graspable. So that's kind of sometimes where I land on this kind of stuff, is just watching the psychological processes, Terrence.
You know, I must admit, from a personal note, and I hate to make shows about me, but I fear for our kids. I fear for my kids. I've got young kids. And I fear for what the future is for them. I fear for the kind of world that they're growing up in and the sorts of values that people around them have. And it always comes back to, for me, trying to make sure that I'm instilling good, solid values in them and instilling what is right and just in them. And unfortunately, I'm finding it difficult in these days and times. I could use some counseling. I could use some counseling and some help.
When it's difficult to discern it yourself, it's difficult to see through the weeds, and people that you have trusted in your life are doing and saying things and acting in ways that you don't understand anymore, especially public figures. We were just talking about the millions and millions of dollars that were put into the last election, or the 2020 election, for ballot harvesting, and then to see the culprit of that cuddling up to our president at the White House. I mean, the list goes on. There are things that are disillusioning that are happening in our body politic. But I do think it comes back to clinging to the cross and staying at the foot of Jesus. And I think that's just where we have to go back to every one of these times. And the more we need him, right, the more our hearts can be right in the midst of all of the panic and fear.
Yeah, because he doesn't change. Everything else changes around him, but he doesn't change.
Yeah.
But he is constant. I got a word out. Lord, thank you. I needed that, apparently. All right, guys, it is a new day in the same old government shutdown. On Monday, the Senate failed to pass not just one, but two bills seeking to reopen the government. In the meantime, House Speaker Mike Johnson says he won't call House lawmakers back to Washington until the Senate does its job and passes a continuing resolution to get federal workers back on the job. Then, and only then, can lawmakers continue the appropriations process, he says.
It is my full intention that if we break this impasse and we put these bills together, we have 3 of them in conference committee right now. Whatever the conference committee comes up with, I will put on the floor. I'm ready to go. But we've got to open government up so that they can move to that next level, so that conference committee can get that work done. I didn't put any of our priorities on the spending measure because, again, all we're trying to do in good faith is get 7 more weeks to finish that appropriations process that we've been all so excited about.
We'll, of course, continue to update you as this saga plays out. That's a quick check of your headlines. Now, let's get a quick check of your forecast with meteorologist Tracy Anthony. Tracy, good morning.
Hey, good morning. We have an active tropics. So areas of the Eastern Pacific and the Atlantic, several areas that we're keeping a close eye on, and several systems, at least for the Eastern Pacific. But we do have Hurricane Priscilla, now a Category 2, and another area just over the Yucatan Peninsula that's expected to move into the Gulf. So we'll continue to watch that. But across the lower 48, a strong, powerful cold front is going to usher in fall-like temperatures after most of us have felt like summer for the last couple of days. After record-breaking heat, several of these cold fronts will plummet temperatures. So frost and freeze advisories are in place, and we'll be bringing out a good amount of moisture. Now, by the end of the week and into next weekend, we will have a good amount of late season moisture pumping into the southwest. So that could cause some flash flooding. And they were running a deficit throughout this last monsoon season. So that is some good news. Terrence, that's what's going on across the country. Back to you.
Thanks so much, Tracy. Appreciate it. All right, let's get you over to David Brody now, folks.
Thanks, Terrence. Appreciate it. All right, while Congress grapples over how and when to end the government shutdown, blue cities struggle to keep their streets safe for American citizens. President Trump's push for law and order hit another roadblock when a U.S. district judge blocked the president from sending National Guard troops to Portland. This, of course, follows weeks of unrest and violence. Here's what Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt said when a reporter suggested that Democrat leaders are concerned about a continuing National Guard presence in places like D.C. and other areas.
Why should they be concerned about the federal government offering help to make their cities a safer place? They should be concerned about this. They should be concerned about the fact that people in their cities right now are being gunned down every single night. And the president, all he's trying to do is fix it. And there has been a complete smear campaign by the Democrats and the media, quite frankly.
All right, well, here to make sense of all of this is Editor-in-Chief for Just the News. That would be our good friend, John Solomon. John, so we have this U.S. district judge saying the deployment order in Oregon violates both federal law and the 10th Amendment. The White House appealing to the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals. What do you think? Any prediction here on how this turns out? I mean, it feels like this is headed to the Supreme Court. They're going to have to weigh in on this at some point.
Yeah, well, remember in a different district out in Chicago, a judge basically said, I wouldn't do it if I were you, Mr. President, but I won't stop it. And so a federal judge has cleared the way for President Trump to deliver National Guard and federal resources to the violence-torn city of Chicago. And so you have different districts coming up with different interpretations of what the president's power is. And I think that always sets up an emergency appeal to the Supreme Court. I think they'll let it play through the Ninth Circuit and then see what comes of it. And then I think they'll go to the Supreme Court saying, listen, judges are speaking with multiple voices. We need you to bring wisdom. And I think that at that point, the Supreme Court might set a standard for when a president, what triggers a president's desire or ability to send federalized national troops in to protect the city. And that will become probably a precedent-setting ruling. But I think this is headed to the Supreme Court. And probably within the next 2 or 3 weeks as the appeals process unfolds and finishes its first two levels.
Mm-hmm. Hey, John, this Just the News headline piqued my interest, even though it didn't really surprise me. The headline reads, Joe Biden's team blocked CIA from distributing report on son Hunter's Ukraine business dealings. Most of us who've been covering this story already kind of knew this, even if we didn't necessarily have the proof. You're coming back with receipts, though, today.
Yeah, listen, this is a very important declassification by the CIA Director John Ratcliffe. What does it show? It shows that Vice President Biden used his power as the number 2 official in the country to protect his son from exposure in the Intelligence Committee by blocking the release of the report that showed that a lot of Ukrainian officials back in 2016 believed Hunter Biden's presence with Burisma was undercutting the Obama administration's arguments that Ukraine should become less corrupt. If the vice president's son's working for a corrupt company, it completely undercuts that. This is the first time we know that Joe Biden put his thumb on a specific product to protect his son from being exposed for the racket that he was running in Ukraine and, quite frankly, in many other countries. It's one side of weaponization. In a 6-8 hour period yesterday, we got both sides of the weaponization, brand new evidence. One side is going after your enemies. That's part of weaponization. And what you saw yesterday with the release of information by FBI Director Kash Patel and Senate Judiciary Chairman Chuck Grassley, you saw 8 senators and 1 House member having their phone communications reviewed and intruded on by the FBI. None of them ever got charged, so apparently whatever they were looking for wasn't criminal. And then on the flip side, the same machinery that's going after Republicans is protecting Joe Biden's son from the inevitable discovery that the intelligence community and our foreign allies thought what Hunter Biden was doing in Ukraine and other foreign countries was unseemly and corrupt. That is how the dual system of justice and the dual system of weaponization has played out. And yesterday, I think we got 2 of the most cogent examples documented, the receipts for them, that we've ever seen.
John Solomon, always great to have you. And you always have receipts. I wonder if you ever send in those receipts. You should expense those, by the way. But anyhow, that's
I'm a little bit behind on that. Yeah,
that's right.
Thanks, guys.
Wait, you own the company. Never mind. I got to expense them to you. All right,
and
thank you,
I'm still
John.
behind. Yeah. See you guys.
Thanks, John.
All right, coming up, unlikely praise for Secretary of War Secretary Pete Hegseth. It's coming, wait for this, from the left. We're going to show you what 2 liberal podcasters had to say about his address to the nation's top generals last week. That's next on American Sunrise.